Hi, I'm Scott. I'm a Quiet Place fan.
Hi, I'm Senthil, and I'm a Bird Box fan.
So the two of us have decided since we disagree, we're going to start watching as many horror movies as we can and come up with a new way of rate them. Come join us.
Hey, Scott, welcome back to another conversation about horror movies.
Hey, Sithel, it's good to see you again. Man, I've got one for you this week. It's called Cold Feet, and it's directed by Brad Ellis and Alan C. Gartner. And this came out, I apologize, I'm having to look again here real quick, in 2019, runs about an hour and 23 minutes. You can catch it on Prime Video if you're interested. What did you think?
When I first saw this in the first 5 minutes, I instantly thought, oh, this is a low budget movie. Now, that's not a negative, but there were characteristics about it that instantly led me to recognize as a low budget movie. And I'm also, and I'm in, and maybe think about some of the projects we've talked about coming down the pipeline for us, and what elements of it that made me identify it as a low budget movie. That's one thing I'd love to chat further about. The other thing is um, I like the story. Actually, the story is unique. Um, Given a little bit more experience, perhaps from the directors, this could have been a major horror twist movie. I think it had that kind of potential. It had funny moments in it. The characters acting was a little bit off for me,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
took me there was a fine line between they were acting odd in an unconvincing character way versus the I don't know if I want to give it away, but what was happening to those characters that was unusual in the context of the story. So some of that threw me off a little bit, but I really like this because it didn't go in the direction that I expected it to go.
So I actually like this film, but I was also disappointed in this film because, like you said earlier, Senthil, I think this could have been an incredible film. Now, mind you, new directors, I'm sure that if we were trying to do this, we'd probably end up with the same thing, right?
Yep.
Phenomenal idea. As this thing starts to unravel, you go, oh, that's why. Oh, and it becomes a little funnier as you move on, right? Because you start to
Yes.
realize the twists that are taking place. Damn it, Cynthia, I still come back to if this movie had had just a little better acting, a little
Yep.
better of that feel, that it didn't feel like they were acting. This movie felt like they were acting in a movie, and
Yes.
that's where it lost me. I never was able to get out of these are people acting like actors in a movie. It took it off site for me.
Yeah, it threw me off, and it made it difficult for me to suspend belief that I was watching. I clearly had the same reaction. I'm watching actors act in a movie
Yes.
versus really being able to get into the story. That was a problem. And then, as we've been talking about future projects for us, there were, and I can't quite pinpoint why I had the instant, oh, this is a low budget movie. I think part of it was the acting. It was obvious that these actors were trying, but weren't really effective. And we could tell that they were distracting from the movie.
Yeah.
Some of it was the way the movie was shot. It wasn't tight. The story meandered a little bit, and the way the camera angles, it threw me off. It kind of felt more of a experimental movie than it did a finished, polished movie.
I agree. Now, one of the things I did, again, when you're working with a low budget, how do you make a film work when you're really doing it?
Yeah,
This movie, again, was one of those one room movies, right? The majority,
yeah,
I'd say 80% of this film was filmed in the same place, right? There's some switching of rooms, but very little of it. It all takes place in this open concept room. And occasionally you step outside right down to the pool area and something happens. And I thought the way they pulled that off was pretty good, especially
yeah.
with what they were working with and the twists, which again, we want to be careful with because it really truly is a twist that you don't see happening. And especially at the end of the film where you're totally going, holy crap, really?
Yeah, and there's a moment where the twist goes in two different directions. You're not exactly sure, unless you're paying attention,
Yes.
exactly what it is going on. So I loved it. And yeah, the limited set. We've talked about this. How do you take a limited set movie and still make it interesting? And I think they were very close. Some of the characters were so off the wall odd in an unnatural way that
Yes.
also distracted me. I didn't see the purpose in a few of the characters just so bizarre in how they presented the characters that threw me off a little bit.
So for me, and I had done a little research prior to watching the, so I try to find out what the budget is and how long it took to film it and everything else like that. So I kind of had a taste for that this was low budget, but to me, and maybe it was different for you, but it was the delivery of lines and acting. It felt stilted to me, and so it felt like you were waiting to deliver your line, and occasionally they stepped over each other on the line, and that for me was the big one. Also, the bizarre use of camera angles at times that I was like going, and that kind of lost me. So yeah, I mean, what did you see that made you immediately go, hello?
It was the acting that did it for me, and then cinematography. Exactly like you had the reaction to. I could tell the camera angles, the scene setup, the shot selection, the lighting, things that we don't normally pay attention to that I am not aware of unless I'm paying attention. And we've talked about the fact that it's not something that we want to focus on when we're talking about these movies, but this was a case where it distracted me and it felt more like I'm filming at home than it did a well-planned set of scenes, fixed scenes that I was watching in a movie. So those elements definitely made it, okay, this is clearly a low-budget movie. I could, unknown actors is not an issue because we've seen lots of great performances from unknown actors. Those elements instantly made that it was an early effort feel from
it was totally the stilted dialogue for me that just kind of, again, I love the story. So Brad and Alan, if you get the opportunity to watch this, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed your film. I thought the idea was brilliant, and honestly, if the acting had picked that, had been just a little bit better, not feeling so stilted. I'm with you, Synthel. This could have been a winner. It was right on that cusp, especially as you start to find out what's taking place. What a brilliant idea.
Yes, and I would love to see, this is a case where I'd love to see the directors or maybe as producers get more money and reshoot this on a slightly larger scale, maybe on a Blumhouse level scale, that it doesn't have to be still a huge budget. And the potential from the story was intriguing. It's a great creative idea, pretty unique. I don't think we've seen this particular type of twist in this kind of a movie. And that's what I love when I see these small movies, small budget movies, the creativity behind the story and the attempt that they make. So yeah, I loved it. I would definitely recommend it because it's different. But I will say that audience will instantly get, not because it's campy, and not in that context. This has some over the top moments that didn't work for me, but this isn't campy like Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, not that level of campy, right? They're not aiming for that level of campy, they're aiming for humor that didn't quite work. So I would recommend it.
I agree with you, Synthel. I would recommend this one too. It's worth a watch.
Fantastic. Then enjoyed another conversation with you, Scott. Looking forward to the next time.
Synthel, as always, I'll talk to you next week.